Okay, well, welcome everyone. Welcome to another event of the Professional Women's Leadership Luncheon Series. My name is Brian Stevens, and it is a distinct privilege for me to serve this region as the president and CEO of the Hampton Roads Chamber. This chamber is extremely proud to be an inspiring igniter. In fact, that's one of our strategic focus areas. And one of the areas where strategic inspiring igniter is through our women's leadership programs. And so this is another event within those programs. You know, our professional women's leadership series has been going strong now for over 10 years. And during that entire 10 years, it's been going strong under the leadership and direction of the Director for Women's Programs for the Chamber, Ms. Pearl Smith. Pearl sadly passed away on March 12th of this year, and we're so sorry to hear that. Pearl led an amazing life. She was a vibrant leader, a champion for women, and a pillar within this Hampton Roads community and beyond. In fact, for those of you, as an indication of how dedicated that she was, she actually finalized the details of today's event while she was in the hospital, just literally a day or two before she passed away. But I think that's just emblematic of the type of person that Pearl was. Many of Pearl's dear friends are with us today, and while we'll all miss her terribly, I want you to know that her mission relative to the Professional Women's Leadership Series will continue with the Chamber. One of the great things about somebody like Pearl who led an amazing life and was a role model for us all, that being a role model lives on even after your death. And we'll continue to keep her in mind and strive to live up to her standards and expectations as we move forward with the Professional Women's Leadership Series in the future. And so Pearl, we love you, we miss you, and again, we'll try to make you proud in the future. I now hand over the controls to our Senior Vice President for Communications and Programs, Ms. Priscilla Monte. Priscilla?
Thank you, Brian, for your leadership of the Hampton Roads Chamber and the region. And thank you to Pearl for all you did for the Hampton Roads Chamber, the community, and I gotta personally thank you, Pearl. I love you dearly. Southwest Airlines is the sponsor today, and at the end of the event, we're gonna have a drawing for 2 tickets. If you have to drop off for some reason, don't worry. If you're the winner, we will contact you. Today's speaker is certainly a strong female leader with a distinguished military career. Captain Dianna Wolfson is currently serving as the 110th Commander of Norfolk Naval Shipyard in Portsmouth, Virginia. Captain Wolfson was selected in 2017 as Operations Officer at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, responsible for planning, leading, and driving the execution of overhauls of nuclear-powered aircraft carriers, submarines, conventional surface ships, nuclear moored training ships, and activities to include CNO availabilities, off-yard activities, and deployed assets. Before taking command at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, she served as the 50th Commander of Puget Sound Naval Shipyard and Intermediate Maintenance Facility and the Northwest Regional Maintenance Center, Bremerton, Washington, from June 2019 to December 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Captain Dianna Wolfson.
All right, well, thank you, Brian, for the introduction, and Priscilla as well. And I'll just, lead off that my heart also goes out to Pearl. What phenomenal leadership she has brought to our community. It's really inspiring. So thank you so much for sharing that. I also want to thank Chairman Stephen Romine and the entire Hampton Roads Chamber for inviting me to speak today. And I believe Admiral Quigley, you're online, and it's good to see you virtually. Certainly looking forward to sitting down with you. I'm looking forward to you and Rick coming to see me on Monday. So exciting times ahead for us here at Norfolk Naval Shipyard. This is really such a wonderful opportunity, and I'm humbled and honored to speak with you about one of my favorite topics. So thank you for that, and it's leadership. I want to focus on 2 key tenets of leadership and why they're so important, and that's caring for your people and commitment to our mission. Both have provided me with great clarity throughout the years on keeping the focus of where it really matters. Our Norfolk Naval Shipyard mantra is one mission, one team, if you haven't seen it. And I'll tell you, it speaks directly to both of those. As a leader of the Norfolk Naval Shipyard, I have the awesome responsibility of commanding one of the United States Navy's oldest, largest, and most versatile industrial facilities. Our shipyard was founded in 1767. So to put that into perspective, 1767 was when George Washington was only 35 years old, with the shipyard's establishment predating our country by nearly a decade. And it's really an awestruck feeling to now be a part of our shipyard's awesome history. And as the fourth largest employer in Hampton Roads and one of the nation's 4 public shipyards, our shipyard's mission is to repair, modernize, and inactivate our Navy's warships and training platforms. And we are truly a full-service shipyard for the nation's fleet, to include aircraft carriers, submarines, as well as amphibious assault ships and other surface ships. So we do quite a bit here. And our work is as unique as it is significant. And as first-line responders to maintain our nation's fleet, it's critical that we meet all of our responsibilities for the Navy. It's very important to me. So what drives me as a leader is to exemplify both my commitment to the mission and my care for the people who achieve it. When taking command of the shipyard back in January, I was quick to point out that while I may be the leader of the team, I see myself as a player on it as well. And it's my priority to help our shipyard achieve best ever performance in our stewardship of our Navy's aircraft carriers and submarines. So just a few days ago, even, I received an email from one of our employees who talked about the importance of walking the walk and talking the talk. And he pointed out that I wasn't expecting anything from any members of our workforce that I wasn't willing to give myself. And that was so meaningful personally that I wanted to share it with you to see that being recognized by an employee, because it's absolutely true. I wouldn't ever challenge our teammates to put the shipyard ahead of self if I wasn't constantly pushing myself and practicing it as well. But the reality is our work is that significant, and our Navy needs that push and that perspective. Also, recognizing our employees and celebrating all of the work they do for our Navy and our country is so important to me. It's each of them who has the ideas and the innovations to keep our Navy the strongest Navy in the world. They are the ones who drive the results, delivering combat-ready warships. And because of this, I prioritize every one of my workforce engagements, thanking our shipyard team members for all of the work they do and recognizing their great efforts. And what I have found is success is absolutely contagious. And as leaders, we must find ways to help spread it. I recently got another email from an employee about how refreshing he thought my positivity was as a leader. And I know I can be a lot to handle when it comes to that positivity, and how it broke what he considered a vicious cycle of negative feedback he'd had in his career from leadership is what was most impactful for me. It was that type of feedback eroding employee morale, which, as you might imagine, only spurs more negative feedback. And as leaders, we have the power to change that cycle. Positive reinforcement can drive mission achievement, which will only drive more positive reinforcement. And as leaders, we can model not just the style of reinforcement, but the very type of culture we want in our organizations. So as shipyard commander, I'll tell you, I recognize achievements both on the individual level with what the Navy calls Bravo Zulu or BZ awards. And I also do it on the group level with a recurring video series called America's Shipyard. In fact, I just held a BZ ceremony just prior to this for about an hour. And I also filmed the latest video of America's Shipyard just last week. So pretty exciting times with regard to recognizing our folks. And I continually tell other leaders throughout the shipyard, we should remember to celebrate our wins and pause and say thank you or great job when it's earned. You'd be surprised how many folks don't do that regularly. And such recognition speaks to the importance of demonstrating respect and providing meaningful feedback. And furthermore, high performers and teams become the linchpins of our organizations. And I feel as leaders, if we take for granted the persons and pockets of excellence in our organizations, we risk our very ability to continually achieve those meaningful results that we're all going after. Being a leader, you cannot overstate the importance of getting everyone rallied around a common cause, so you're all rowing in the same direction. And that speaks to the importance, again, of our shipyard mindset, this one mission, one team. And at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, we have one mission. We forge every opportunity to preserve our national security and gain a competitive advantage to be the shipyard our Navy needs through our exceptional, safe, timely, and cost-conscious delivery of our warships. Because we are one team, together as the Norfolk Naval Shipyard workforce, we are in the mission of relentlessly chasing best ever performance in the stewardship of our nation's warships. Now, while much of our work may be done here in Hampton Roads, Norfolk Naval Shipyard is also truly an organization whose reach spans the globe. Along the East Coast, we have satellite locations with dedicated teams at locations as far as Ballston Spa, New York, and as far south as Kings Bay, Georgia, supporting the various needs of our Navy. So we span the entire East Coast, and we even provide support work on our aircraft carrier, USS Ronald Reagan, located in Japan. We also mobilize flyaway teams as needed to provide critical short fused repairs to our ships while they're out at sea. And these flyaway team members have been likened to superheroes. They have an ability to go in, quickly diagnose the problem, fix the problem, and head home with few people ever even being aware of who they are or what they did to help keep our country safe. And I find that so inspirational. It's really what keeps me going. With all that said, every day we have anywhere from 600 to about 1,000 workers that are supporting this Navy mission worldwide. And we pride ourselves on executing our mission whenever and however needed to ensure our nation's security. Our claim as America's shipyard, in fact, our very reason for existence, hinges on our service to the fleet and service to our nation's warships. When you hear that word warships, you may initially think submarines and aircraft carriers, but the scope of our work goes well beyond that. For us, warships also includes vessels like the USS San Francisco that we have here at Norfolk Naval Shipyard. It's being converted from a Los Angeles class submarine to a moored training ship. And our shipyard has been charged with converting the Navy's 2 new moored training ships that will serve as the key training platforms down in Charleston, South Carolina, preparing the next generations of fleet operators. How cool is that? Our service to warships also includes vessels like the former moored training ship, the MTS Sam Rayborn, which recently arrived in Portsmouth to undergo inactivation. Everything we do, whether for an aircraft carrier in service or a moored training ship undergoing inactivation, whether at the shipyard or at a support site here at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, in Portsmouth, or across the globe in Japan, everything we do services the warships and the sailors who serve on them, fulfilling our mission and vision to deliver on time everywhere to protect America. So at America's Shipyard, we are on the front lines meeting Naval Sea Systems Command's #1 priority to deliver combat power through on-time delivery of combat-ready ships, submarines, and systems. Now, we may be 30 years removed from the Cold War and 20 years since terrorist attacks, our country on 9/11, but we are facing very real and very concerning threats on the world stage. Our country is now in the midst of a great power competition with China and Russia, and our Navy is essential for maintaining stability around the world and security for our nation. But as I tell our workforce, we can no longer rest on the status quo. We must all bring our A game to find better ways to get better and become efficient in our business. And as our Chief of Naval Operations, Admiral Gilday, said, For 245 years in both calm and rough waters, our Navy has stood the watch to protect the homeland, preserve freedom of the seas, and defend our way of life. And the decisions and investments we make this decade will set the maritime balance of power for the rest of this century. And we can accept nothing less than success. And what an awesome responsibility on the shoulders of our shipyard workforce. And we must shoulder this load with great pride, purpose, and patriotism. So for us at the shipyard, we must have the sense of urgency to act boldly and make each minute count. We can't afford to wait until tomorrow, and one day late is unacceptable. One extra day for a ship undergoing maintenance in our shipyard means one less day that the ship is able to be at sea, securing our nation and protecting our interests. And that's why at our shipyard, we must immediately react to any delay or roadblock, get after it, and elevate it to the right level. Our Navy and our sailors need us to get it right every time. So with a one-team mindset in America's shipyard, it's so important that we effectively partner and we win together. I'll say that one more time. We have to effectively partner and we have to win together. We must support each other, and we must also hold each other accountable in all we do. When we recognize ourselves as one team, we realize our successes and our failures are shared. To ensure our strongest team, we are committed to enhancing competence and character, demonstrating humility and respect to our teammates, while also ensuring an actively inclusive team. Our shipyard is among the most demographically diverse of the nation's 4 public shipyards. And with an average of 42, we have apprentices fresh out of high school, as well as engineering majors right out of college, working alongside employees who have served in our shipyards for decades. And we're made stronger by our diversity, including diversity of thought from various backgrounds, experiences, perspectives, and approaches. Many of our recent engineering graduates are familiar with advanced technology like additive manufacturing, laser scanners, and even virtual reality. And they're bringing their education and know-how to bear on our mission. And that might involve improving a way we've been doing business for years, or it might involve doing something an entirely different way. Those fresh perspectives are helping us get better in our business, and I absolutely love it. But regardless, if a shipyard employee is 22 or 62 years of age, in terms of being in the shipyard, with 4 months of service or 40 years, the common link that unites all 10,800 of us is that we are one team working together to achieve our one mission. And we're linked by our common cause. And I think that's very important. In the past decade, I have been fortunate to serve our Navy in a variety of leadership positions. First, serving at Norfolk Naval Shipyard about 10 years ago as a project superintendent on an extensive overhaul for the submarine USS Newport News, and I'll tell you, having former members of the Newport News team, even today, still stop and talk to me about the value of relationships built during that submarine availability, reaffirms to me that's how I should always treat people. Committed to enhancing that competence and character and making connections, demonstrating humility and respect to our teammates while ensuring that actively inclusive team. And I've learned a lot about being a leader, and specifically on that project. Members of the entire project team knew what needed to get accomplished and why, and could be confident knowing when obstacles occurred, they could ask for help and absolutely get it. And that open posture aligns with a new challenge from the highest levels of our Navy leadership, which is to fix or elevate the problems that are standing in our way of our achieving consistent excellence. And as leaders, our teammates need the confidence that we have their best interests at heart and will consistently drive to the improvements that will make their working lives better. So while I've been provided increasing amounts of responsibility in a variety of roles in the past decade, in many ways, I strive to be the same leader as I ever was. I do that by remaining committed to my values and leading with my head and my heart. And I have found throughout the years that it's okay to lead with your head and your heart. Staying true to one's values provides a way to navigate through difficult times, something we can all relate to in the mindset of an extended pandemic, as well as improves the likelihood of successfully meeting one's goals. Commitment to one's values can result in gaining the trust and respect of others, as well as the ability to influence those on your team. I've also found that vulnerability is an important quality in my being a leader. Some people might be surprised to hear me say that. I mean, after all, as leaders, some people might think we should be thick-skinned, immovable, uncompromising, but part of building connections with your team requires a candidness about the difficulties, and expressing vulnerability, in my opinion, it fosters this trust. It's incumbent upon us as leaders to continue to build trust and confidence through our competence, character, and connections. And we need a willingness to be open and vulnerable and have the humility to forgive and move forward as needed. And we need to also be able to seek to understand and know that we can improve. And if we can do all of that, then we will change behaviors. While I also emphasize to the shipyard team the need to chase best ever performance, I'm very grateful and humble for any feedback that changes my perspective about something near and dear to all of us, and that is failure. As leaders, failure stings particularly hard because we pride ourselves on setting the example. And furthermore, it tends to be especially visible. If someone else makes an error in an email, a few people might notice. But if I make an error in an email, a few thousand people might notice. So, what I try to tell myself and tell my folks is that learning from failure is actually one of the most significant aspects in achieving sustained success. It is that learning and that being uncomfortable that brings growth. And I'll tell you, my conscience is always talking to me, telling me that I have many things to work on. And I feel we never really arrive as leaders. We continually transition and grow, provided we use every day for the learning opportunities each day presents. And in fact, there's a great quote I'm fond of, and it's that I reserve the right to be better tomorrow than I am today. And if you think about it, it's a pretty wonderful perspective. As a leader, I feel it's very important to not only listen to your conscience, but frequently thinking back to those who inspired you, touching your life through example or providing advice that continues to inform your thinking to this day. And when I think of such a person, I'll tell you, I think of my father. When I was a young girl, my father taught me the importance of 4 words. And while I was initially concerned with being able to spell them at a very young age and spell them correctly, my father encouraged me to ultimately look to their definition and their true meaning. He would quiz me on our car rides to the horse barn on the U.S. Army post. So yes, I'm an Army brat. And he taught me the importance of these 4 words. It's discipline, responsibility, integrity, and patience. And I wanted to do a comparison to relate my upbringing and the values my father instilled in me and how I apply them as the leader of Norfolk Naval Shipyard. So first, discipline. It's to have the discipline to understand your motives. And given the importance of our work here at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, we must put the shipyard ahead of ourselves at all times. And we must have the discipline in our interactions to show one another that they are the most important person at that instant in time. And I don't know how many of you have sometimes gotten wrapped up in something else when someone is coming to have a discussion with you and maybe you're half paying attention. Well, that's what I'm talking about. It's having that discipline and that interaction to show that the person in front of you is the most important person at that instant of time. And it really makes a difference. Next is responsibility, to build an organization that has expertise, as though you don't need a boss, with the cognizant people that own the decisions behind their thinking. And that's tougher than you think when you have to look at the cognizant folks that own the work, and you have to help build those decisions behind their thinking. Next is integrity. It's to be a person of your word. Always do what is right and honor your commitments. And with integrity, you own it. It can't be stolen, and you must protect your integrity with your life. Something that I have always strived to do. And finally, my father was really tough on patience, and I'm not sure he always had it. So that's probably why I learned it. And I feel it's to have that emotional intelligence to intensely listen and seek to deeply understand before focusing on responding. And such patience is a sign of respect and valuing the other person's perspective rather than prioritizing your own. And I really feel patience is the key in the ability to affect positive change in people. So people with strong character really have a lot going for them, both in being respected by others and in their ability to achieve their goals. They are usually successful because of their responsibility, their discipline, their integrity, and their patience. Now, some wonder if being a woman influences my style of leadership. And I can cite many examples of women who are amazing, impactful leaders. And when I took command here, I became the 110th commander in history, but the first female commander of the Norfolk Naval Shipyard in its 253-year history. And in many ways, I really believe I benefited from good timing in my naval career, especially early on. I was in the Navy's first groups of women surface nuclear officers in the mid-1990s, when women began serving on the Navy's combatants only 2 years prior to my graduation from the Merchant Marine Academy in 1996. And as leaders, maybe particularly as women leaders, we must be ready for our opportunities when they present themselves. Chance can be a wonderful, transformative thing, but chance only gets you so far. Chance may get you in the room or onto the ship, in my case, but it's your capability that truly proves you deserve to be there. I have a drive and almost an itchiness to get out of bed every morning because I have such a passion for our work. And I feel there's so much to accomplish in the ensuing hours ahead, which is a lot of hours. And in addition to having a passion, regardless of your gender, you must always have the courage, both the mental and the moral strength to venture, persevere, and withstand danger, fear, or difficulty. As a leader, courage means doing what I think is right, keeping myself focused on true north, in spite of difficulty, and maybe even doing what is unpopular. And I will say it takes grit. Whether you are a man or a woman, it takes courage every day. Courage is what helps us grow from our experiences. And as I reflect on my past quarter century, if I ever started to feel too comfortable at any point in my career, I sensed I was likely not challenging myself enough. So I would say, dive in and know you can do it. And once you dive, grab onto what motivates you. And for me, in every Navy job I've ever had, it's our people. To see them excel makes me strive harder. It is what makes me get out of bed every morning. To see them thrive makes me want to keep going. And with that, it's building those connections with our people that drive me each day. And I know many of you have heard this, as Maya Angelou said, people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So I go back to that discipline piece and how important it is to make sure that the people you interact with feel like they're that important, because they are. So it's interesting. Some might think I possess my style of leadership because I'm a woman, but I don't want to think I'm seen as more caring, more compassionate, or more communicative than some male leaders just because I'm a woman. I want people to think I'm all those things because I'm Captain Dianna Wolfson, and all those leadership qualities are so important to me as a person. As the first female leader, not only at Norfolk Naval Shipyard, but in the history of the nation's 4 public shipyards, I want to make all of those women who have come before us proud. I'm so humbled, and I recognize it's because of their struggles, sacrifices, and efforts that we have the opportunities we have today. And in turn, I want to show my daughter that if she has the courage and the conviction, she can do anything. And so how exciting to think of all the potential opportunities that await her and await all our children. May the glass ceiling become an open sky, and may the open sky become the stratosphere. My daughter is just as capable and competent as anyone else, regardless of gender. And as a woman, through our courage, competence, character, and continuous building of those connections, we'll keep raising the bar ever higher, every generation, for all the women that will come after us. In building connections for many years, I have lived by the mantra, if you take care of your people, they'll take care of you. And I've always held that close to me, often literally as having the motto right in line on the site of my desk. And it's because I think the people piece of the business is so important, because it's the people who make change, and it's the people who drive results, and it's the people who actually do the work. And if we don't take care of those people who are helping us achieve our mission, then we aren't doing our jobs right. So in conclusion and in summary, I just want to say we all have the power to motivate and inspire others by strengthening our ability to behave consistently with our values and our character, and set the standard with your passion, your presence, and your personal example. Because I will tell you, it is contagious, and it's the right kind of contagious. So thank you all for inviting me to speak today, and I really appreciate it. So thank you, and I'll turn it back over to you, Priscilla.
Thank you, Captain Wolfson. Wow, you were so inspiring. Thank you so much for doing this. And it's interesting because our beloved Pearl Smith is the one who set this up. And so much of what you were saying is her mantra as well. So I feel her with us, and I feel her cheering you on. We have some great questions. First off, our dear friend, Admiral Quigley, put into the comment section, your comments are refreshing, inspiring, and spot on. So That's from Admiral Quigley to you. We have an anonymous attendee who says, Captain Wolfson, it sounds like you were a Girl Scout, courage, confidence, and character.
Actually, you know what? I wasn't a Girl Scout. But I probably should have been. But I spent all of my time at that Army, that barn, at the Army base when I growing up. So all my time was spent there. But that's where I learned from my father. I can tell you, like, continuously. But also add the Navy leader development framework is where a lot of that comes from: competence, character, and connections. It's a really good read if any of you have the opportunity to do that. The old previous CNO, Admiral Richardson, he developed that, and it's a really good read, and it is very impactful, because we all think that, at least for me anyway, I've always been working so hard to be competent at everything I do. But at the end of the day, it really is about your character and the connections that take you to the next level.
I love what you mentioned when you were quoting Maya Angelou about the way you make people feel. And, that is what people remember. And that's just so important. San has a question, and I'm thinking that I'm going to ask Anne if she can open San's microphone, because this is a pretty detailed question. And I'm hoping that San, who is on, can ask his or her question.
Yeah, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Captain Wolfson. It is a pleasure to meet you and see you. I am retired from the Navy many, many years ago. And
Thank you for your service.
thank you so much. And I'm kind of asking this question because, I experienced some of it, and I was reading a 2018 Jackowitz report that a lot of women reported that they felt that they were not treated equally as their male counterparts, and it contributed to a lot of them making the decision to depart from active duty service. My question was, have you experienced this during your career to the extent where you are today? And how would you encourage sailors and officers, your junior sailors and officers, to handle this obstacle and to persevere and stay the course?
Mhm. That's a great question, San. I will tell you. Well, first, I'm sorry you had those experiences, but I definitely understand that there are a number of women that have experienced what you're describing. I will tell you, I have actually been fortunate, I think, in my career to come up within a community, whether it was a surface warfare officer community initially or the engineering duty officer community, and I'm also nuclear trained, but to come up with this community and this cadre of mentors that really did care about my upbringing and sort of the molding of me as an officer. But as I sort of also mentioned in the speech, that doesn't mean that I didn't have to go after my dreams or go after having the courage to probably speak my mind or be noticed or make sure that I was heard. And so I think that there are and I think anyone that would say otherwise, may not know what it's like to walk in a woman's shoes. There are challenges that we face that I think are different than some of our counterparts do. But I will also tell you that they also experience kind of similar challenges, but maybe in a different way. I think that I have also experienced some of that unconscious bias, or what we sometimes talk about with regard to a woman seated at the table that has a refreshing idea, and a man might say the very same thing, that it might be the man's opinion that gets noticed by the woman's opinion. But I will tell you, we are working on building a community where someone speaks up, and creating an environment where someone speaks up and says, hey, did you hear what she said? Or did you hear what Captain Wolfson said? Because that was pretty spot on. And the more that we're educating and mentoring and talking about it is what turns that tide. And so have I been a part of some of that? Absolutely. Has it been challenging in my career where, you say, geez, is anyone listening to me here? I've had that as well, but I will tell you at the same time, it's the perseverance and the conviction to knowing what right looks like and what right feels like, and following through on that, that drives you. So with regard to the second part of your question, with what do you tell a junior sailor or junior officer? And I'll tell you, even 10,500 civilian employees here at this shipyard is that we want to have an environment where everyone feels valued, and we want to have an environment where everyone feels safe to come to work to do their very best. Because if we're concerned about other things like not being valued or marginalized, then we're not doing the right thing. And so a lot of that comes from me as a leader. I am responsible for that. And so my work, ahead of me, and where, as I've grown up, is to make sure that everybody understands that and everybody knows that. And that's just part of the environment we're going to have here. And so that's the mentoring, that's the teaching piece that we talk about quite often. I don't know if that answered all the aspects to your question. It's a really good question.
Captain Wolfson, it did, and your last statement, it kind of touched on where, if you hadn't broached it, I was going to ask the question. I think you're right. No matter where the organization is, whether it's military or is in the civilian sector, women have to balance that position of being assertive and not overbearing, but you have to speak up and you have to go for what you want and earn that. You should be, everyone has to earn that respect. But I did find in some situations, sometimes when you have a great idea, and you're right, it's nodded and say, yeah, but sometimes it takes that male to affirm that it's a great idea. And that situation is disappointing, but like we say, it is what it is. But the great part about it, and when I was active duty, I made it a point. I was enlisted and as our officer as well. Mentorship is so important across the board, but it's especially important for women. We have to mentor each other, and sometimes just having that person to go to ask for help, to ask for advice, it makes a whole difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. Absolutely. And I'll tell you, and I have been fortunate to have many mentors and at the same time pay it back. And so that's, I'm fortunate to be in a position where I can pay it back, and all of us should do that. And so, and thank you again for your service. It's awesome.
Stan, thank you for participating. We have a question from Kristin Ward. So Anne, if you can open Kristin Ward's microphone, I'll let Kristin make her comment and ask her question. Kristin, are you
Hello,
there?
can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. I actually asked my question over. Let me open it up real quick. I just wanted to thank you, Captain Wolfson, so much for taking this time. I have a wonderful niece serving in Spain as a corpsman, and listening to what you were talking about earlier, I just wanted to see if you had any words of wisdom for her and some of the other young ladies who are in their first 5 years of service. And then my second part of that question is, how do you think that their first 5 years might be different now than maybe your first 5 years?
Wow, that's a loaded question. Well, first I would say, never let one tour judge a lifetime and from a career perspective. And I always tell myself that, because there have been days, and I don't know who hasn't had those days where you're just like, gosh, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. And some of those days for me have been recent, by the way. It's just I'm laughing with my PAO over here, but and you never want to let one tour or one boss or one situation control your life. I think that's something that is really important to share with everyone, because if you kind of get that right up front and you have a good understanding of that, then as you go through life, you're able to process that a little bit better. You're able to say, well, let me figure out how I'll go attack this situation, whatever it might be, whatever's causing, the challenge in front of you or the difficulty. Let me set that aside and don't let that affect what's, your emotional state, such that, you would make a decision you could regret. And so initially, that's what I would tell your niece, in terms of, hey, this first 5 years, this tour that she's in, I'm guessing she's in Spain. She's going to absolutely love it. But on the hard days and on those difficult days, it goes back to that perseverance and the courage that we all need at times to make it through. I don't think that life is any easier in anywhere. Like, we've talked a lot about that in the service as well, is that, once you get out of the Navy or you get out of the service that you're in, it's not necessarily going to be better and rosy on the other side. And so there's a lot to that. And that's even in the civilian sector too. And from a DoD perspective, it's really about being able to process and have that emotional intelligence to be able to work your way through things, and then being able to seek assistance or seek advice. And I think some of us don't do that regularly either. Is and that goes back to the mentorship that Stan mentioned is that we need that mentorship. We need to be able to pick up and phone a friend, which I'm sure Kristin, as her aunt, you probably maybe get those calls every now and then. So I don't know, does that answer your question there?
Yeah, thank you so much. She's about to come to Lejeune this summer, so she's going to be attached to a Marine detachment. So,
oh, fantastic! Thank you.
Thank you,
Captain Wolfson. I loved what you said about don't let one tour define you. I had a leader who used to tell us, let's look at everything as seasons. So basically in the business world, we look at everything in quarters. We've got our 4 quarters of the year, and so each season. And so if you had a bad quarter, you had a bad tour, you had a bad season, that's not going to define your whole career. So just, don't repeat the mistakes. Do it better next time.
Yeah.
A shy attendee who does not want to be on speaker, but has asked me to ask their question on their behalf. Who have your most influential mentors been who've supported you on your journey to leadership?
That's a great question. So I will tell you, like I said, I've been fortunate. My mentors along the way, just starting, my dad was Army. So, obviously he has helped, guide me. And it wasn't an easy life, by the way. He brought me up, challenging ways, I would say. But my father has always been not just my father, but a mentor of mine. I've always sought his advice or wanted to make sure, I was going off in the right direction initially. So, in terms of getting started into my career, my father provided a pretty significant role in my life. And then as my career, sprung or took off, I always sought folks that I found to be inspiring, and I wasn't afraid to go and talk to them. So whether it was on my very first aircraft carrier, it was my chief engineer, now Admiral retired Berkey. He was an ED, an engineering duty officer. And I was like, hey, that's kind of cool. What is this ED thing you're doing, chief engineer? And I was just a little division officer, but I sought him out to say, hey, this looks really cool. I would like to know this. I'm surface warfare now, but I would really like to go learn more about this engineering duty thing, and, sought that. And so, there are folks like that along the way. Same thing with, fast forward to my time at Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, there was an officer there as well that was ahead of me by a few years, and today he is an admiral in the Navy over at Pac Fleet and has kept in touch. And so, all along my career, whatever duty stations that I've had, I've really sort of sought out, hey, what person is inspirational to me? What do I want to add to my toolbox from that person, and then get to know them, and then you create a relationship, and then you establish those connections throughout your career. So I really have had a number of mentors along my way. And then at the same time, I've also had female mentors. So those were men that I mentioned, so I've also had female mentors along the way. Miss Stephanie Douglas, who was a CO at SRF, is now at NAVC, and she was at Fleet previously. There are folks there, also folks that were in NAVC. So I've really, been really very fortunate to have had some really, really great mentors along the way.
And it's always important to remind everyone, those of you who are in leadership roles, to pass it, pay
it back. Yeah.
And become a mentor and become a champion for others who are coming up. And I love the fact that, like, your daughter and my son, I see them as coming up in this world where there's no gender. They just all, men and women, are all on the same level, which is fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. I'm seeing that in my daughter as well. I think when I go back to that emotional intelligence piece, I am like awestruck every day at the intelligence, the emotional intelligence that I think our children have compared to where I grew up. I mean, the way that they're able to sort of assess and understand, something, I think, get it a lot quicker. And I don't know if it's the digital age. And I think actually Kristin asked that piece in one of her questions, is how does the the future look kind of thing? And I think, or is there a difference? And I think that I think some of that is, the information that we have at the ready is so different that it takes a processing speed that's much faster. And it's, and when you stop and think about it, I don't know if I'd have been able to process it as fast as our children have to do now, if that makes sense.
Well, they have such a global mindset now,
Mhm. Right.
So two quick updates. Kristin said she sent your comments off to her niece. So those are already hitting the ears that we want them to hit. And another participant wants you to say the name of the book you mentioned again so that they can go and order it.
Oh, I don't think I mentioned a book. Did I mention?
Book on.
Oh, the Navy Leader Development Framework. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yes, it's a Navy Leader Development Framework, and it's actually 3.0. So there's a 1.0, a 2.0, and a 3.0. And the 3.0, it's really great because it started with just character and competence aspect and really focused on that. And it wasn't until 3.0, if you just Google it, it will come up. If it's 3.0, it will talk about connections and how important connections are. So it was neat to see the Navy lean towards how important connections are, both personal connections and professional connections. It talks about both being really important. So you can download that. It's not exactly like a book. You can Google it and you'll be able to print it out and read it.
Captain Wolfson, thank you so much. You have been so inspirational, and we truly appreciate having you as our speaker. And again, in honor of Pearl, I thank you on her behalf, and thank you so much. So last but not least, Southwest Airlines, again, Pearl developed this great sponsorship with Southwest Airlines. So I am mixing these up, and we're gonna pull a name to win 2 Southwest Airline tickets. So I'm not looking, and here we go. This is Renee Fairchild. Renee Fairchild. So we will contact you right away and make arrangements for you to get your 2 free Southwest Airline tickets. Thank you to Southwest for being our sponsor again. And thank you, Captain Wolfson, for your inspirational talk and all that you're doing. And I don't know if you have any final words you want to leave us with.
Oh, well, I always say in all my emails, let's go do this, and hashtag we got this. So I guess this is probably a good way to end this is let's go do this, and hashtag we got this.
Love that. We got this.
We got this.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. And thank you all for participating. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.